What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Trevi here again from Vyros2 with another awesome battle report coming at you from Warmachine Weekend. I was able to go to Warmachine Weekend, and the organizers generously let me record some games from the Invitational. So this is going to be from the second round. We're watching Cordell Zebrose here versus Joshawa Richter. It's going to be Legion versus Retribution. Cordell's bringing Fyanna, the Torment of Everblight, versus Joshua's Vyros2. So this is going to be a really interesting game. Real caveat, real quick before we get into it. I was playing in the Invitational at this point, and I wasn't here to watch the game, so I might get a couple facts wrong when going back through this recap. I hope I get everything right, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, very exciting game to watch. Brand new Warlock. She was just released at Warmachine Weekend. Cordell got her painted up real fast and decided to play her in the Invitational. I'll try to catch some people off guard with the new cool stuff she does. She is the second version of the Fyanna2 solo. She's basically a glorified journeyman Warlock that's gone epic. She wasn't initially a Warlock, but her second version is. Very interesting list with her, bringing a Seraph because they're almost ubiquitous in Legion lists at this point. Typhon for the just massive resilience he brings, and then a bunch of light war beasts. Those guys are going to be excellent with the additional defense from the feet. And with Fury, Cordell can pump those guys up to get a lot of damage output out of things with like rakes that can get a really long threat range and deliver that +3 damage. There's also a Naga Nightlurker in there, so even if there's armor-buffed models, Fyanna can put Fury on something, and then it can also be Wraithbaned, and so you can double up on some additional damage there. The Strider Scouts are in there as well. They are I think just a high defense unit. With the feet, they're going to go up to defense 18 and just be almost impossible to remove, as well as being able to snipe out some support if need be. Moving over to Joshua Richter's Retribution list, we have Vyros2 Incisar of the Dawn Guard with very battle group heavy build. Vyros usually brings a heavy build, a battle group build, to take advantage of that synergy, but we're seeing right now a bunch of quality heavies in his battle group rather than the spam of lights that you normally see with the Vyros list. So he's bringing 2 Manticores, Imperatus, and Discordia. Discordia, obviously a great choice with Vyros because her kinetic field for +2 armor against ranged attacks also combos with Vyros' deceleration, so you can bring +4 armor against ranged attacks to put any of those heavies, or even the Dawn Guard Sentinels that are in the list as well, up to really high armor against shooting. The Dawn Guard Sentinels can again combo that with Iron Zeal if there's some heavy guns on the table, and really be almost impossible to remove at range. So they're going to be delivered pretty reliably, and especially with Vyros' feet to make killing them sort of risky. This list can really bring all those models, can deliver all those models into melee pretty easily. So very interesting list on Joshua's side. The matchup's going to be an interesting one. We can see that the scenario here is outflank, so it's going to force both of those lists to split up a little bit, and both being relatively battle group heavy, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for them. Although the Hellmouths on the Legion side are going to be a kind of a big deal, especially with Iron Flesh on the table from Fyanna. That's going to be a huge buff to those guys. +2 armor combined with Impervious Flesh is a ton of survivability that I'm just not sure that Josh has the ability to get through easily. So here we have the first turn of the game starting off. Cordell going first with some apparitions. Looks like an apparition and a slipstream from the Seraph, moving Fyanna up. The Strider Scouts spreading out up in front just to get some early board presence on the table there. We can see the Hellmouths in great positions here. One of them is in that top zone, so that's going to be difficult to remove. Really shuts down the scoring on that zone until it's removed, and it makes it very difficult for any Warjacks to get in there with safely. There's always going to be the option that Hellmouth can just drag anything in, even through that forest. It looks like it's more than half an inch into the zone there, so it's going to be able to reach those tentacles out anywhere in the zone it needs to. I assume that's going to be the Hellmouth that gets Iron Flesh, and the other one is safely behind the forest there, so it's relatively immune to ranged attacks. The Seraphs are blocking some extra line of sight off by basing the forest there. Really great positioning early on for Cordell, I think, right here, and then everything else just bricking up right in the center to explode out if Joshua overcommits anything. So we have what it looks like one of the Manticores running up just to hide behind a wall there. He's, I think, going to probably try to get it into range to take some shots at that Hellmouth on the next turn. It's going to be able to step into that zone and fire with its gun. Yeah, just keeping out of the 11-inch range there. If any of those Warjacks do enter the zone and get pulled in by the Hellmouth, it's pretty trivial for Fyanna to remove them. And she can even do a bit of a tricky thing where she can put Fury on the Hellmouth itself, and that puts the Hellmouth attack up to POW 18. And if it sets up correctly, and it puts its tentacles essentially around where a Warjack is going to be pulled, into the area where a Warjack is going to be pulled, it can place a tentacle when it starts its activation, pull the Warjack in, and then attack it with the other tentacles in order to generate more free attacks from the Hellmouth. And that can actually do a significant amount of damage with Fury to a heavy that way. So Cordell might not even need to commit any other models to take out a Manticore or something that moves into that zone. So that means that Josh is really going to have to remove that model on that side of the table if he's going to have any presence on that side at all. We have over here the Sentinels and Discordia moving up to shield them, and I assume deceleration going down from Vyros to protect the rest of the models. Imperatus on the hill there, so this closer flank, even though that Hellmouth behind the forest is going to be very difficult to remove, it's farther back, so Joshua can contest that zone without much trouble. That wall is going to help him a lot, and that hill is going to help him survive some of Typhon sprays. With the +2 defense from the wall, from the hill, sorry, from Typhon, and then the +4 armor that Josh can bring on those guys, it's going to be rough for Cordell to kill any of those Dawnguard Sentinels. And obviously, if he does, he triggers Vengeance, and that's not really where he wants to be right now. So what we have, Cordell moving up some models. This looks like an apparition from the Seraph and then the Strider Scouts going. And I think what Cordell's going to do, and this is a very good call, is he's going to try to snipe out as much of that support as possible. So Retribution obviously very reliant on those Arcanist mechanics. They can give focus to his Warjacks so that Vyros isn't quite as starved. And then also +2 strength from concentrated power is a big deal. So if Cordell can remove those guys with some scout shots, and there's one down, it looks like, he's going to essentially give all those Warjacks functionally -2 strength, which is going to really limit their hitting power, especially when you need to get as much damage out of every hit against a high defense caster like Fyanna. Her feat is probably going to be used this turn or potentially the next turn and pump that defense up really high, and it's going to be tough for those Warjacks, at least for one turn, to really get any meaningful work done. Reposition from the Scouts going up just to jam up those Dawnguard Sentinels. That unit is so compacted that just a couple of them need to engage. But Discordia is there with the spray as well as Imperatus, and he can just sidestep around and hopefully clear those models out so that the Dawnguard Sentinels can move out as well. Looks like Fyanna's moving up into that zone, being pretty brazen there and apparating Typhon forward. And then a Gallows hits a Gallows on Imperatus, drags him up to the wall. Uh-oh, this could be very bad for Retribution right now. One Rake, it looks like, moving in and jumping over Imperatus to get that backstrike bonus, getting a couple damage into him. And it looks like Typhon's going to be in range there. It looks like there's a feat token next to Fyanna as well, so she's going to be feeding this turn. And feeding after getting Imperatus could be very bad for Josh. That's going to limit the size of the synergy chain that Vyros can get, as well as Imperatus is really his heavy hitter, an important assassination piece. And without him, it could be tough to get back in this game. Although, potentially, if he's able to lever it, get some dice spikes up on the top zone there and clear that Hellmouth out, it looks like Cordell's relatively weak up there. So that could help. But Imperatus is dead through Phoenix Protocol, it looks like, which is pretty impressive. But Typhon at Fury 5 with 3 initials is a big... He hits super duper hard, and I think he might have Fury on him as well. So power 20 Typhon. That is a ton of damage coming out of that model. And then even at defense 16 as well from the feet, with potentially with excessive healing as well, to put him essentially up to armor 20 or the equivalent is going to be a big problem. We saw the Seraph apparate Fyanna backwards, so she's not quite in charge range of those Dawnguard Sentinels. One Rake just moving and jumping, it looks like. Or potentially that might have been a run over to a Manticore to try to block off any lanes that it has. just jamming up with those high defense models. Those rakes are going to be defense 17, I think, on the feet turn, so that's going to be huge with dodge. So if any of those attacks miss, they're just going to be right out of there. And everything moving up to get in the way. That looks like some Hellmouth Tentacles running to get in the way of the Dawnguard Sentinels. And the Naga, I potentially ran up in the center there as well. Another relatively high defense model. He's starts at a 13, going up to 16 with the feet. Makes those models very hard to remove. So Fyanna, in a relatively safe spot here. It's going to be a little tough. Cordell is able to aberrate her back. She has a shield guard. She has a guard dog up with her, but it doesn't look like she's camping very much. Gallows is a costly spell. She probably has to boost a hit as well as boost damage to ensure that. I think you have to damage with Gallows to pull models in, but sitting on 1 or 2 transfers, I would assume. And we'll see if Josh can pull out an assassination here. It's going to be very tough. He probably would require a throw from Discordia on something into maybe some guns from Manticores and Vyros, or potentially Dawnguard charges if they're able to get the angles. It looks like it could be doable, but very tough. So I don't know if that's going to be what he's going to try to do this turn. So it looks to start the turn off. Joshua is going to end up moving Vyros over that wall and taking a swing at the Rake there. The Rake still being a very high defense, but Vyros obviously can boost, and it looks like lands a hit probably. Or he might have missed and actually triggered a dodge to move the Rake out of Vyros' melee range. I think that's what happened. But had Vyros hit there, he would have been able to trigger 1 synergy off of his attack in order to give those Warjacks +1 to hit, which is pretty crucial. It looks like the Manticore is actually running there, so he's going to take a free strike from the Rake. Doesn't look like it does a ton. Manticore is obviously on that Phoenix chassis. You have a ton of boxes with that force field, keeping them safe. But he's able to run around, and that looks like it pins Typhon in between the Rake that's in front of it right there, as well as Discordia and those looks like the Nagas behind it potentially. So Discordia, I think, takes some swings into the Rake there. Might have hit to trigger 1 synergy. I think that's what happened. And then all of the Sentinels going in. Now those Sentinels going to be have a huge problem dealing with Typhon. Typhon, again, as we said, being defense 16 with defeat right now. They're able to charge past a tentacle over there because it's not in formation, so no free strikes from that tentacle. But we have 3 going into the Naga, it looks like, as well as, or that might have been just a normal tentacle, as well as a bunch going in. Looks like 8 maybe going into Typhon, but needing 9s to hit, it's pretty doubtful that they do any significant damage, especially if he has excessive healing up right now. He is blocked, so he's not going to be able to rotate, and Typhon is immune to backstrike, so he's not going to, his facing doesn't really matter right now. But without knocking Typhon down in any way, it's going to be really tough for him to deal, for the Dawnguard Sentinels to deal with him. Looks like one of the Sentinels missed the Naga, which dodged out of the way, and then 1 Manticore moved into that top zone there. So, unfortunately, not a particularly strong response to Fyanna's feet turn. Very strong feet turn from Fyanna, taking Imperatus off the table and not losing Typhon to the counterattack. I think if Josh had tried to knock Typhon down, he isn't Serpentine or steady in any way, but he probably dies to those Dawnguard Sentinels if he's on his butt. So, potentially, instead of blocking Typhon, that Manticore could have run up to Disco, and Disco could have thrown the Manticore into Typhon and potentially knocked both Typhon and the Rake down, which would have been a big deal. But instead, Typhon survived, and things don't look great for Josh here. We have the Manticore in the zone there being drug in, like we said, into the tentacles from the Hellmouth. So the tentacles are able to get additional attacks in on the Manticore and trigger more Hellmouth attacks to do even more damage. So Iron Flesh really paying off there in that forest. Stopping the Manticore from doing a ton because obviously they lack Pathfinder, even though Vyros lets them see through the forest. That zone is going to be really tough for Joshua to try to clear. I assume this is Vyros' feet turn. I don't see a token next to him, but that doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. This would be a good turn for it. I think those Dawnguard Sentinels are going to get murdered by Typhon to the extent that The moves from the feet could potentially set up an assassination run on the next turn, or make Cordell play a little more defensively than he's been able to so far. Looks like we got some sprays from Typhon here. Kill off the Solus Escort, maybe? Here we go. Rolling all the hits, rolling all the damage. Technically, the way sprays should work in this game is that all of the hits are rolled first, and then the damage rolls are rolled, and I think that's the order Cordell's doing it in, which is correct. But I see a lot of people play it the other way. It doesn't really matter that much. Yes, it looks like this was a feat turn. So we have the Manticore moving over into the other zone, away from Typhon, so as not to get murdered by his bitey mouths. And then we have some more attacks being bought and killing off the Dawnguard Sentinel. So the Dawnguard Sentinel is really mangled there. Looks like the Naga's going back in to try to take a couple of them out. And then that Hellmouth's going to be able to activate and pull them out of formation or kill them, potentially. That one in the center of that triangle is there, so the Hellmouth's going to be able to probably pull that one to his doom. And then the other one moving back into formation. Not going to be able to get an attack this turn, but that one tentacle that charges is going to be able to kill one. Doesn't even need to drag him into the Hellmouth, just ends up killing him with the charge attack. So that's pretty handy. So those Sentinels getting really minced this turn. It looks like we only have 4 or 5 Dawnguard Sentinels left on the table, as well as the Solus Escort back there. So that unit really got annihilated. Is this Fyanna going in to get some damage done? It looks like it is. She charged in over that wall. She has Chain Strike, so 4-inch reach during her activation. She was able to kill off 1 or 2 Dawnguard Sentinels over the wall there. So nice to see a Warlock getting some work done by herself. She is a little sad in the damage output department, especially since her first version was essentially only a combat solo. But she is able to get work done when she needs to. And 4-inch reach, plus transfers, plus the Succubus is in there to give her a cloud. There's the Nephilim Projector in there, so she's going to be very difficult to kill. And that can really help keep her safe, so she can make plays like that, make some exciting plays where she moves up and does some work herself. We have the Seraph moving into the far zone there. It looks like Cordell isn't entirely happy with just the Hellmouth contesting, especially against 2 Retribution heavies. So the Seraph's moving in there to sort of shore things up. I assume at least one of those models, if not both of them, will die regardless, but it will at least take most of Josh's subsequent turn if he wants to clear that zone out. It looks like we have another Rake activation moving out and killing Silas Wishnow here, so almost all of the support is gone on Joshua's side. Things do not look great for Vyros here. He's down a heavy and almost an entire unit, as well as all of the support that makes all that work. We have, looks like Fyanna's support crew has moved up around her. No cloud on Fyanna, which has me a little scared for her survivability, but I think he hex bolted the closest Manticore potentially, the one in melee with the Seraph. If he did land a hex bolt there, that's going to be a big deal. Stopping any throws from that model is pretty huge. So we're back to the Retribution turn. We can see the Dawnguard Sentinels making their vengeance moves and attacks. I don't know if that's going to be particularly relevant right now. After having lost so much, I think what Joshua is going to be trying to angle for is an assassination victory. And after Fyanna moved up to get those a couple free kills, and she is in sort of a compromising situation, I think this is the turn to go for it. So we see Vyros moving up, and he was able to take out one Strider, it looks like there, Strider Scout with a sword attack, so that's going to give him a +1 synergy bonus. We see Discordia here, I think boosting an attack roll into the Rake that's in front of her in order to get an additional synergy bonus. So we're at +2 synergy. I assume that Manticore up at the top there took a couple swings in order to get a synergy bonus as well. So we're going to be at the full +3 of synergy on this one remaining Manticore. So we're going to see this Manticore be able to charge into Fyanna. It's going to have to take a free strike from the Seraph. That's a lot of free strikes this Manticore has taken. Obviously, Manticore is pretty beefy warjacks, but they are not invincible. I don't know if anything gets knocked out by this free strike. I can't really see the dice. But not exactly what Retribution warjacks want to take. So I don't know if it spent its focus for +3 damage, but after having to charge, it looks like, even with the synergy bonus, it's only going to have a maximum of 4 attacks, and it looks like Fyanna is camping 2. So because she has dodge, one missed attack could really stuff up Joshua's turn here. So I think he ended up boosting his attack rolls. It looks like the Manticore is able to strip both transfers off Fyanna, and here comes one Dawn Guard Sentinel attack into her, and he misses. So she has a natural dodge ability, so she's going to be able to dodge 2 inches out of the way, get out of the range of any more models getting in on her, and I think that makes her relatively safe for this turn. Again, I'm not sure if that top Manticore has gone. He might be able to come up and take some shots, but she is in melee still. She was able to dodge and remain in melee, so she is going to be safe, I think. And that might be all she wrote at that point. Yeah, so it looks like Fyanna has survived the assassination run, a fully loaded Manticore with the synergy chain getting in on her, but camping transfers and having dodge, she's able to survive. And Vyros is sort of out in the wind right now. Hellmouth pulls the Manticore out of the way of Fyanna, and that frees up most of the army to attack Vyros. So I think we're going to see an assassination from Cordell here. Obviously, an excellent run on Joshua's part, very well executed, and I think that was the correct time. Fyanna was a little overextended that turn, and I think this was probably Joshua's best bet to win. So good on him that he recognized that this was the time to go for it. We have a Rake moving over in onto Vyros, taking some swings at him. Looks like he's spending some focus to ignore the damage. He has 2 focus remaining, I believe. And there's Typhon going in on him, so this is probably going to be the end of the game. Typhon going in with that mat 7. He might still have Fury. I'm not sure. And buy some attacks. And there's the handshake, and the game is over. Vyros gets eaten by Typhon, and that is the game. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. Great game to both players. Obviously, Cordell played brand new caster Fyanna superbly, and Joshua was faced with a predicament of facing a brand new caster that I'm sure he's never played before. And he played it very well. He almost executed a very strong assassination run, but just failed right at the end there. So stay tuned for some more Warmachine Weekend battle reports. I have one more game from the quarterfinal round, as well as the Privateer Press staff were kind enough to show me, or to allow me to record the final round. So I'll have those games commentated to you. If you want to see the full version of this game, go over to the Warmastream channel, youtube.com/Warmastream, and you'll be able to watch the full, uncut, unedited, unabridged versions of these videos if you want to take a look at that. And if you like these videos and you like my channel, please consider supporting my Patreon at patreon.com/WayOfTheSwan, I believe. Anyway, keep it classy, folks, and stay tuned for some more battle reports.